mention that Marion Cutler, who is not running, her name will be on the ballot. So I hope that you make sure that you remember and that tell your friends that she is not running, so we don't want her to receive useless votes. So now we will begin with the format that we usually have. And Florence is our timer, and when there are 30 seconds left, she will hold up a little 30-second sign, and sometimes she will give a little oral reminder too. So we'll get started. I'll read the formats with the each candidate will give an opening statement, which will last for 2 minutes at most. And then each candidate will respond to the questions that they have received ahead of time, and they'll have 1.5 minutes to respond. And at the end of that section, we will have a question and answer period. We hope that questions will be asked and speeches will be made. If you want to talk to the candidates, I'm sure they'll be here after the and then we will have 2 minutes for the closing statements. So let's begin and try to go through. So with the opening statements, we'll start with Deb and then we'll move down the table.
First of all, I'd like to thank the Hill Neighborhood Association, especially Carol Buchanan, for hosting this event, and to all of you for coming out tonight. My name is Beth Doherty, and I've lived in a combination of Maplewood and South Orange for the last 22 years with my husband, Paul. We have 4 children, ages 22 to 16, 3 of whom have graduated from Columbia High School in the last 4 years, and my youngest is a junior there right now. My children have had a great experience in our school system and have been very well prepared. But I know that that is not the case for all children. And that is why I joined the board about 6.5 years ago, and I've been the president for the board for the last 2.5 years. Since then, we have made a lot of improvements. We have overhauled curriculum, we've implemented programs for both advancement and support, we're infusing the use of technology in all subjects, we're making sure that more students have access to rigorous classes, and we're rolling out the International Baccalaureate system in program in middle schools. And we're providing more professional development and collaborative learning opportunities for our teachers. And there is measurable progress. Our test scores are rising. We're closing the gap with our peer districts, known as the DFG. We're closing our internal achievement gap, but there are still very disturbing gaps that still remain. And we've increased the percentage of students taking advanced and AP classes in high school. Our students receive state and national recognition in performing arts, student publications, athletics, and other extracurricular activities. So while I am very proud of the accomplishments we've made, I also know that we still have a lot of work that needs to be done, and that's why I'm running for a third term. I want to make sure that every single student is engaged in the classroom and inspired to perform their personal best. I want to make sure teachers receive the professional learning opportunities that they need, that parents are engaged and informed in their students' education, and that resources are allocated wisely so that we can maintain a strong education system while being respectful of the taxpayer budget. I'm running for re-election with fellow incumbent David Giles and newcomer Stephanie Lawson-Mohammed. As a team, we provide the right combination of leadership, experience, and fresh ideas and perspectives to provide the continuity and stability on the board that is needed to continue to move our district in the right direction. Thank you.
Can I interrupt for 1 minute, and maybe someone could get a few chairs in the back so that people can sit down. There are some empty chairs within the rows too. I want everyone to be comfortable. We'll get started. Okay, thank you for your help. And now, David, your opening statement.
Thank you, Carol Buchanan, and the Hilton Neighborhood Association for hosting these debates. Thank you to the candidates for being willing to remain in service. Mike and I lived in Sept for 12 years. Starting South Orange Middle School. I served on the board was similar in many ways, but also different, particularly for that time. My father was a black chemist from Detroit who moved to Mexico for work. There, he married my mother, and eventually moved to Los Angeles to raise a family. We were not typical because of our biracial background and because of my father's profession. A third of my classmates didn't graduate, and most were not prepared for college. But I had an advantage because of my father's education. Fortunately, did go to college. Still, I have never forgotten the experience of my peers. After teaching for 2 years in a public high school, I dedicated my career of almost 25 years as an attorney to representing parents and students in the area of education. Education involves the intellectual, social, emotional, physical, and artistic development of our children. It is fundamental to who we are and who we can be. It should be a positive experience, but too often it isn't. As a board member, as in my career, I have worked hard to ensure that all students have the opportunity to be engaged in school and achieve a high level. During my tenure on the board, we have made substantial progress towards achieving this goal. We have made changes that are resulting in tangible improvements. We see it in the steady rise in test scores, in the growing number of students doing advanced work, and in where our graduates are going to college. Thank you.
Finish your sentence.
It's just that my wife and I see it in our sixth grader, we hear it from our friends, there's a lot to be done to maintain the progress that we've achieved, and I hope that you will support Stephanie, Beth, and myself, so that we can continue providing the leadership we've provided for the next 10
Thank
years.
you. Okay, Stephanie, please.
Good evening. My name is Stephanie Lawson Muhammad, and I'm excited to be here tonight. I'm happy that each of you chose to engage in one of the most basic civic duties we have as neighbors. And I'd like to thank the Hilton Neighborhood Association for hosting the first of 3 debates that will frame this lecture. This is my first dip in the political pool, and many are surprised that I would even consider trying to find time in my busy schedule as a mother of 3 amazing children in the district and an engineering director at Verizon Wireless. But my first reason is simple. I've always wanted to make a difference in how children are educated. I come from a family of educators where my mother and paternal grandfather retired as principals. I resisted the urge to follow in their footsteps, but my commitment manifested itself during and after college through 11 years of volunteer work, participating and then leading tutoring programs for underserved students in Atlanta, Chicago, and Essex County. But my other reason is a bit more complicated, and it makes seeking a seat on the board more urgent. I'm on the record over the last 2 years saying that this is a great school system and that it's serving my 3 children well, and I meant that. Compared to what we experienced in Bloomington, Indiana, where my husband was a history professor at Indiana University, the schools here are special. That's part of why we chose South Orange when we relocated in 2011. But in the short time we've been back, I've seen enough to know that there are also problems in our district. The narrative in many households isn't as positive. Why should I care if my children are doing well? We're doing what we need to at home, and there's every indication that our children will grow up, dream big, and achieve those dreams. Here's the complicated part. Given the many personal challenges that students encounter growing up, the inconsistency I see in our district, there's no guarantee that my children will continue to thrive in the face of 1,000 different issues that might develop. I could say that I would go down to the principal's office, bang on the desk, and make it happen if something went wrong, but that's just not enough. There's some issues in the district that just shouldn't happen, and it's our responsibility to make sure that we take care of those. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I am very, very happy and excited to enter the 4th quarter, if you will, of my career. I'm a resident, I'm a citizen, I'm a parent, I'm a homeowner, and I'm a property taxpayer. I've been a homeowner in this community for over 30 years, so I know my community. issues we face in terms of property taxes. People come to me for all kinds of things. People come to me because they want truthful answers. And one truth is that it is time to hit the reset button on education and taxes in our school district and community. I was recruited over 30 years ago into what was a blue ribbon district. And it was a blue ribbon district for many years and decades after I came. We had come with the experience, we had come with the credentials, even before we were interviewed. We had to have that. We had teachers and an administrative body that was the envy of the state. And some of you probably remember that sitting in this room. However, we had cities like Livingston and Milburn who really envied us. Is that the case today? I understand the total of what needs to be done. I understand it from the inside out. And when I say I understand it, I understand it. I'd like to see our school district become the kind that it used to be, as a blue ribbon district that set the standard against the ALEC changes that are coming in. And so I hope this evening you'll be able to see what all the candidates are about.
Thank you. We'll start with the first question, which is, what specific changes would you most like to see in our district? And we'll start this time with David.
Under the leadership of the current board, including Beth and myself, the district has experienced a tremendous amount of positive change. For example, we have improved the curriculum across the district and all grade levels. We've transformed how we evaluate teachers. We've added full-day kindergarten, implemented a K-3 reading interventions, and established an inclusive model for serving children with disabilities. And we've substantially restructured and introduced IB into our middle schools. With so many major changes in the last few years, the biggest change I'd like to see is that we slow down the pace of change. While we constantly strive to improve, and change is necessary, it also can be challenging to the school system if imposed too quickly. And with the additional challenge of fully implementing the Common Core state standards and introduction of the PARC assessments in 2015, it is important that we effectively implement the changes we've already begun and to support our teachers to improve instruction. Still, there are some changes that we need to make to fully accomplish our goals. For example, we need to complete the process underway to develop a program to identify and serve gifted children. We need to improve how we support our children with disabilities in inclusive classes. We need to implement an early education program at Montrose to serve better, closer to home, and more efficiently our children with disabilities. As a board member, it is important to recognize the value of change, but also to manage it carefully. While we have a long way to go to meet our goals, the best way to do that will be to effectively incorporate change into the system in a way that will result in solid, sustainable practices that lead to good teaching in the classroom.
Thank you. Definitely. So, similar to David, I think there is already so much change going on in the district, voluntary and involuntary, with the goal of improving the education for every child. From the introduction of IB, International Baccalaureate, to the implementation of Common Core, to modifications to student assessments, and the enhancement of the teacher evaluation process. My focus is to make sure that the change that is already underway be implemented effectively, that we have the right mechanisms in place to measure progress, that we are agile and ready to make incremental changes to correct course so that we can stay on track with the desired outcomes. I want to make sure IB works. My 6th grader is in the first class of IB, and this next board will decide if it is extended beyond 8th grade. I want to make sure that we have proper mechanisms in place to evaluate progress, to allow for a thoughtful consideration of the extension of IB to 9th and 10th grade. In addition, to making sure that change in motion is effective, I would like to see improvement in how the district connects with the families it serves. While I've been impressed with the use of technology such as PowerSchool and Edmodo to encourage parental engagement at South Orange Middle School, I'm also concerned about families that feel disconnected from our schools due to inconsistent communication and difficult to navigate processes. When things that are simple and should be widely understood are instead difficult or confusing, it threatens the foundation of trust essential for successful students, parents, and school participation or partnership.
Thank you. Joe?
As a taxpayer and a parent, I remember those decades when we paid a lot less for taxes and got a lot more for our money. And we can do that again. I'd like to see our school district become that school district that takes the lead in the state and the nation, the way we used to. I have concerns regarding how we use our tax dollars. We have lost so many great programs. And while we're losing these programs, our taxes are going sky high. And I think everybody can identify with that. But there's a way that we can spend and keep things in check. And we need to do it. And I know how to do it from the inside out.
Beth?
So there are so many changes going on in the district right now. And with all the new initiatives and programs in place, the most important thing that I would like to see really take hold is that every single student is engaged and excited about what they're learning. And I'm really excited about the IB program rolling out in middle schools because this is directly related to that. It's an approach to teaching that is very student inquiry based. It makes the subjects relevant to the real world and global in nature, and the students become curious and want to learn more. I personally, even though there's a lot of change, would still like to see more STEM courses and topics infused throughout the district. We're very strong in math, we're strong in science in the high school, we're weak in technology, we're weak in engineering, in my opinion. These courses tend to be very hands-on, very action-oriented, with lots of problem solving, and they really prepare our kids to live in a world where technology is everywhere. I would also like to see us explore one-to-one computing, which is a computer or a Chromebook, tablet type device in the hands of every student and a laptop for every teacher. We had pilots going on with one-to-one computing in both middle schools last year, and we're extending that this year. We need to do a thorough cost-benefit analysis just to see if that's the right direction for our district. But if it is, I think it would really distinguish us and empower our students in their learning. And for high school, I'd like to see us pursue alternative pathways to graduation.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Everyone has such strong ideas. I hate to interrupt. Okay. The second question is, in what ways will you support the Maplewood South Orange teachers and other members of the professional staff? And we'll start with Stephanie.
Teachers are at the very core of our schools. There is no successful path forward without our strong and talented teachers that make it happen each and every day. It's essential that they receive the support and professional development necessary to successfully implement all this change that's headed our way. I'm excited with the district's plans to roll out International Baccalaureate because at its core, it's about equipping teachers with successful mechanisms and training on handling differentiated classrooms. But the bottom line to me is that the relationship between the teachers and the board must be improved. We must be a unified force, moving in the same direction with the same goals to ensure we give students of the district the excellent educational experience they deserve. I get that the push and pull has to happen, the challenge of negotiation, but we must ensure that we're actually listening to each other, getting at core issues, and negotiating for outcomes that are at the core to improving our district.
Okay. Joe?
Thank you. I don't want teachers lied to or abused. We need to do everything possible to give our teachers the tools that they need to be successful. Don't tell them that they have to incorporate technology into a classroom and then they don't have a computer or a smart board which to do it. We have a gifted staff, and I know that. But it's a staff that has not had input in what's going on in the South Orange and Maplewood School District. And to me, it's sort of like going to McDonald's to get a hot dog. You know, if I'm going to McDonald's, you know, I'm definitely going to get a burger. And so when I'm here in the South Orange Maplewood School District, if I want to know about education, I'm going to ask the people who are delivering such. And so I think it's really important that we do that and support our teachers and not be so antagonistic and appreciate the things that they do and what they want to do. Thank you.
We all know that the key ingredient to student learning is effective teaching. It's what goes on in the classroom every day. I think it's important that we continue to provide the learning opportunities and expand on them that we have been providing for our teachers. We've done model classrooms, learning walks, professional learning communities. We've instituted time for them to collaborate, their lesson planning and sharing best practices. The IB professional development is very high quality, and we've provided a wide range of other targeted professional development opportunities. And this we have to continue. We also have to deal with Achieve NJ, which is the new state regulations on the teacher evaluation and the tenure reform. This is mandated by the state. It's coming out for the first time this year. Fortunately, we are very well positioned for this. We've been planning for this for several years. We introduced what's called the Danielson Framework for Teaching 5 years ago and have been training both the evaluators, which are the principals and supervisors, and the teachers on how to use this new evaluation framework. And we have subject master teachers in both language arts and math in every elementary school that provide additional support to the teachers in their building. We have also maintained our administrative staffing levels intentionally, because if you want to improve teaching practices, you have to have enough people to observe the teachers and directly engage with them and give them meaningful feedback to improve their practice. The number of required observations is going to double this year from about 900 to 1,800 observations. And I also want to make sure that our staff knows that the board is committed to supporting them. It is in everyone's best interest that they are successful. Thank you.
Dave?
As a board member, our primary responsibility is to deliver good teaching. And the only way we can do that is by attracting, supporting, and retaining good teachers. In the years to come, the most important thing we as a board can do for teachers is to help them meet the challenges coming with the implementation of a new teacher evaluation and tenure requirements, Common Core state standards, and the PARCC assessment. These state-led initiatives offer great promise for raising standards and improving teaching and learning in our district. We are ahead of many districts, having already instituted, as Beth mentioned, the Danielson Framework for Evaluating Teachers. We've aligned our curriculum to the Common Core, and we've introduced IB into our middle schools. However, full implementation of these state initiatives will place great demands and expectations on our teachers and make their evaluations dependent in part on performance of students on the part. To be able to attract and retain good teachers, we need to be able to support them in developing the skills they need to effectively implement the Common Core and help their students do well in the part. This means from the start implementing effective teacher evaluation procedures and professional development designed to support good teaching practices, identify problems early, and help teachers to improve where needed. When I was a teacher, one of the things I can remember from back then, the only thing I remember from being evaluated, is that the fact that I had an administrator who observed me and fell asleep in the back of the room, which I hope wasn't a comment on my instruction. But we're not going to do that. We need to provide good support for our teachers so that they can meet the challenges ahead.
Thank you. The next question deals with the hiring of a new principal in the high school. What qualities will you look for in the person hired as the new Columbia High School principal? And we'll start with Joe.
Sweet. So, when you're looking to hire a principal, or any employee in the district, you're looking for people who come with the credentials, the proper credentials, and the experience necessary for the job. There are traits that are critical as well. We've seen it work in our district and to the envy of our state. The principals who made the difference in our district for the years we were blue ribbon and had the experience and the credentials, I have seen the qualities and the experiences and the traits that made it so. And so if we look at the applications, the applicants when they come in, let's make sure that they have the proper credentials for the job. And that they also have a passion for our community, and they have a passion for our students, our teachers, our administration, and our board. We all have to work together. That's the only way that we're gonna come out of what we're in.
Ben?
So we have partnered with the New Jersey Principals and Supervisors Association to help with the search. They've conducted focus groups with the Columbia High School staff, district leadership, parents, board members, and students to develop a candidate profile that we're looking for. Personally, I have a lot of opinion about what I'd like to see in the principal. I've had 4 very different children who've had a positive experience at Columbia, and I love Columbia High School. I think it's a fantastic school. It's not perfect, but it's a great school. I would like to see the new principal be someone who puts students first, and by doing this builds a climate of mutual respect, understanding, and trust. Students should feel welcome, safe, and respected in their schools. The principal must truly believe that every single student in Columbia High School should be prepared for post-secondary success. He or she must instill a culture of high expectations for all students. They should be a true instructional leader, not just a building administrator. A leader who taps into the vast talent of the staff at Columbia High School when formulating strategies to accelerate student development and expand educational opportunities. Someone who is focused on the work that needs to be done, but also versed in innovative solutions to expand the learning opportunities and partnerships necessary to develop alternative pathways to graduation. Someone who is flexible but not impulsive given the potential volatile nature of a large public high school. And finally, a great communicator with the staff, students, parents, and the broader community. The principal should set a tone of enthusiasm, open communication, and participation to make everyone feel vested and proud of their high school.
Columbia High School is an extraordinary place that offers a capstone experience where any student can find their place and flourish. Our students excel in academics, the arts, athletics, and a wide range of extracurricular activities. In addition to maintaining and expanding our traditionally very strong programs at the high school, we have also begun recently to take steps to ensure that all students are offered a more rigorous academic program, that students are prepared to meet the challenges of a more rigorous program, and to increase the opportunities for more students to participate in advanced classes and AP classes. Yet despite its excellent programs and these recent initiatives, we need a high school principal that can help us develop and implement a cohesive and comprehensive vision for the future of Columbia High School. The fast pace at which the world and our economy are changing, the increasing globalization of our society, and the greater role played by technology mean that our students need to graduate with new skills. We need a new principal who understands that our students will need to, that understands what our students will need to succeed in the future, who understands both the challenges and possibilities of a high school, who appreciates our diversity and the excellent programs that we already have, and who will be able to lead our high school, our community, in developing a comprehensive vision for Columbia High School and communicate effectively that vision to students, parents, and the community.
I still have a lot to learn about Columbia High School and what it has to offer our students. As the mother of an 8th grader, the inevitability of this next step is real for me, as it is for many of my closest friends. Aside from the standard list of strengths that I'd look for any leader to possess, I'm specifically looking for 2 things for our principal to have next year. Experience with an appreciation for schools with diverse population. Columbia has diversity across so many spectrums that the next next leader must be energized by working in a diverse environment. He or she must bring a level of awareness, sensitivity, and respect to the challenges of ensuring all children are educated at the highest levels with high expectations. It's got to be about excellence, period. I also expect the next leader of Columbia to have experience and expertise managing through organizational change. With so much change happening across the district that directly impacts the high school, it is essential that the next leader have a strong set of skills in ushering in change when all stakeholders are not necessarily excited and rallying behind that change. At Verizon Wireless, where I work, our mantra has been change energizes us for the last 2 years, back to back. Why is that plastered on every communication that goes out to the troops? It's because we all know that change doesn't energize us. It's scary. What we need is a leader who turns scary into energy.
The next question deals with school safety. Given the Newtown, Connecticut shootings and safety in schools, what are your ideas for ensuring the safety of our school children? What should we do as a school district, what should we as a school district be talking about? Beth.
So school safety is definitely on everyone's mind, and it's been a top priority in the district long before Newtown. But since that horrible tragedy, we've really scrutinized and tightened up our procedures and reinforced the importance of compliance with these procedures and with all of the emergency protocols. Some actions that we've taken, we've also added additional measures across the district. All the schools are locked during the day with buzzer entry, including Columbia High School for the first time. It used to be that the door was unlocked, there's a security desk in the front hall, but now you actually have to buzz into Columbia High School. And during lunch, the students cannot return until the end of the period. They have to come through the front door to really control the flow of people in and out of that building. We've installed cameras, additional cameras throughout the districts. We have security gates at both middle schools and the high schools to cut off sections of the building where people should not be after hours during extracurricular activities. And we do not have school on election day, which many people are annoyed about, but that's because school security is very difficult to maintain when you have strangers coming in and out of the building to vote. So that was a very intentional decision. The good news is that with all this heightened awareness and drills, our students and staff are actually very, very good at all types of evacuation and lockdown drills. And I think our staff has really been successful to find a way to communicate the importance of these drills, the importance of being prepared, without instilling a sense of fear in our children. And that takes a fine balance, and I really think they have accomplished that. So it's an ongoing focus, it's an ongoing priority in our district.
The Connecticut shootings was a tragic event that raises critical issues about what we can do as a society to protect ourselves against these types of events. It also reminds us of the importance, of course, of school safety and compels us to make sure our schools are safe. In its wake, our administration did review our safety procedures and did, with the assistance of law enforcement officials, implement additional measures to ensure the safety of our schools. Beth just mentioned one of the things that were done. Additional efforts are ongoing all the time to make sure that all of our buildings are as safe as they can be. The only thing I would say, aside from assuring you that our administration, our board, everybody puts the safety of our students first, I'd say if anybody has any suggestions, comments, sees anything about safety, bring it to the attention of the principal, of the board, of the administration. All sure take it very seriously and make sure that the schools are safe.
As Beth and David just outlined, our district has placed a priority on student safety for quite some time and implemented myriad best practices. But we must keep in mind what kind of community we want to raise our children in. Do we want to be relegated to a bunker mentality? Instances like what happened in Newtown really cause us to pause and reflect on what's most important in life. And we can prepare, And we can ensure that we have drills and whatnot. But we can't make any promises that those types of things won't come here. We saw it hit down in DC just this week. So, in my opinion, what we need to be talking about is what kind of community we want, and how we treat each other, and how we make sure that people feel like they're part of that community, and what we do to look out for those that are struggling.
We take a relatively different approach to the safety issues in our schools around the nation. We're basically not being very responsible in terms of laws that are coming up. We have to understand what creates that bullying environment and reinforces it when you're talking about safety. When you have $500,000 gates that are installed in middle schools, where kids feel like they're in prison. And what are the gates really doing? When you look at Colorado, the two people that went against the guns were recalled. Does anyone remember Columbine? What state was it in? We better have the support in our schools because we're not seeing it in the voting public. We're not seeing it among us as citizens. And Colorado's got Columbine, they've got Aurora, and it's next to Tucson with Gabby Gifford. And they're still recalling people who are saying to kick out the NRA. And you know how we have to be safe. It's really, really important. So it doesn't matter what we do in terms of safety in the schools, because a kid can open the door for another kid, leave a thing, we got buzzing people in and out. We don't have security. Let's not be fooled. I know. I'm coming from the inside. I participated in those drills. And so did some of my colleagues that are here tonight. So we have to be a little bit more responsible.
Thanks. The last question for tonight is pertaining to the Common Core assessments. The movement to Common Core assessments has been met with mixed reactions and results, judging from New York City. What are your thoughts on the Common Core assessments and thoughts for managing implementation expectations? And let's start with David.
There are good reasons to be concerned about regarding implementation of the Common Core, especially with the introduction of the PARC assessment in 2015. But I don't think our situation is comparable to New York City, nor is there reason for great alarm. Mostly with some trepidation, I welcome the change as an opportunity to improve teaching and learning and set consistently high standards for all students in our district. In other words, on balance, the move to the Common Core and the PARC assessments is a good thing for our students. New York City is a huge district, and there were serious issues with regard to implementation of the Common Core in classrooms and the alignment of the curriculum and classroom practices with their new testing regime. Here, things are different. The successful implementation of the Common Core does not consist merely of changing the curriculum, nor can it be implemented overnight. Ultimately, it depends most upon strong teaching, which must be fostered systematically and over time. I am optimistic about the position of our district with respect to implementation of the Common Core because we have been systematically improving teaching for years, and we are in a good position to keep it improving in the years to come. Still, it is predictable that the test performance will drop here as it will across the state the first year PARC is implemented. And we need to start now communicating to parents and community members about the changes coming. But the message should not be all doom and gloom. The primary message should be about how the Common Core and PARC will lead to improved teaching and learning, although we also need, of course, to prepare everyone for the anticipated decrease in scores that will be.
Thank you.
47 states have adopted the Common Core curriculum standard. The whole country is blazing a new trail. So there are bound to be bumps, like in New York City. There really is no roadmap here. But when you look at what our district has been doing over the last 2 years to prepare, I feel much more comfortable about how ready this district is and what they're doing. But one thing I just want to say with respect to Common Core, we have to maintain a sensitivity to the other subjects that are not covered by Common Core. For example, in our district, we value educating the whole child and embrace the importance of the arts and humanities. We must also balance the obsession with a career-oriented focus and ensure we are encouraging students to find their true passions and make informed choices about their future based on those findings.
I guess I'm going to disagree again. The Common Core assessments narrows the scope of exposure for our students. So that's going in the wrong direction. We don't want to put all of our students in one little box and say we're all going to learn the same thing, we're going to learn it at the same time, and that's it. When looking at the Common Core, recently, just a couple of days ago, the Bergen County freeholders voted against the implementation of Common Core standards and assessments, citing that the Common Core violates the constitutional laws granting the United States power that the Constitution reserves for the states and we the people. And I'm going to quote, "It was unconstitutional, an expensive takeover, and dumbing down of the education of children." That is what the Common Core represents. And while 48 states have adopted it, let's look at Wisconsin, let's look at Florida, let's look at other places. It is not going to work for South Orange Maplewood. Our kids deserve to be well-rounded and exposed to everything that we can expose them to. Everything, not just English and math. We want arts, we want science, we want it all. We will not skimp on our children.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the Common Core were developed to elevate the rigor and the expectations in every classroom, to make sure that the kids are better prepared for college or career. And that's an admirable goal, and that's one that we support. They dive deeper into subjects, so students really own the material and they have a deep understanding of things that they can apply to other subjects later on. And there's no intention in the district to just teach English language arts, and math. I mean, there's a commitment to every other subject that's out there. We are very well positioned to implement the Common Core this year and what's called the PARC assessments. These are new online assessments that will start taking place in the school year 14-15 and replace the NJ Ask. Fortunately, we've been updating our curriculum for the last 2 years. The professional development that our teachers are receiving through the IB program is really directly applicable to the Common Core teaching that's going to be needed. It's best practices and how to deliver instruction, so we're very fortunate that we're doing those at the same time. And we also had the foresight to bring in some PARC-related technology into the district this year. We included in the budget, we purchased 1,000 of the 2,600 Chromebooks, the computer tablets, that the students will need to take the tests. We got them in this year so we can also use them for instructional purposes before we need to use them for testing. And they can be used to expand the one-to-one computing pilots that we want to look into, the idea that kids have computers at their disposal to do work. Based on the work that we've done over the last few years, and will continue to do this year, I think we are much better prepared for these assessments and to teach the Common Core than in New York. I do think we might see a drop in test scores, and we'll have to engage the community about that. But like David said, it's not gloom and doom. It's a new benchmark, and it's all to really better prepare our students.
Thank you. And that completes our questions for tonight. We will take some questions from the audience. We expect to spend about 15 minutes. Again, I ask, please no speeches, but a very good question. If you want to direct it at a particular person, you're welcome to. And if any other candidate wants to add their ideas, you're welcome to also. So does anyone have a question? Yes.
I'll repeat it. So the IB program is being, but this doesn't count towards my 2 minutes. The IB program is being implemented in the middle school, starting with the 6th grade this year, rolled out 7th grade next year, 8th grade the following year. These 6th grade teachers this year received training in the IB last year, and also some of the 7th and 8th grade teachers got to participate in some of the unit planning, which IB has a specific way that they advise to plan units of studies to really make it interdisciplinary, to make it student inquiry based, very reflective. The students know like what it is they're trying to accomplish before they set out, which really helps them be energized by what they're trying to learn. And they have areas of interaction. It's the environment, it's health, it's human, it's government, it's global. It's just a very intertwined discipline. So learning how to develop those units of study in and of itself is a form of professional development. We also had teachers go down to Austin, Texas to participate in IB program. We've got an IB coordinator in each of the middle schools that does ongoing professional development. So this year, the 6th grade teachers will receive more professional development, and the 7th grade teachers will receive a lot in preparation for next year. Same thing with 8th grade teachers the following year. And as far as teachers in non-middle school grades, if that's where you were going with it, right? So they're receiving through other lists the types of professional development that I mentioned as well. There's learning walks where the teachers go around in groups and observe classrooms and then reflect on the practice they saw and the best practices and what they should emulate, what could be improved upon. We have model classroom teaching where a consultant and expert will come in and actually teach the classroom and teachers get to observe it. We have professional learning communities where those are groups in each school where the teachers get together. So there's ample opportunities in all the other schools.
Did anyone want to add anything?
I don't know if that's really going on in the schools in terms of learning. I know that a couple of teachers went down during the summer to become engaged in learning what the IB program is about, but in terms of staff training, it's a question mark.
So I just like to say that, as already mentioned, I have a 6th grader who is in the IB program. I've seen the materials coming home that are showing me that she's going to be learning Spanish very differently than I did, and that there's an IB focus, and the way that they are approaching it is just very different, and it's refreshing. I think one thing we have to be very clear on IB, it's a process. This is the first year. We are not going to see dramatic change in the first year. It is going to spread out over the grades as the 6th grade class matriculates through the middle schools. And each year, the teachers in the grade that have taught it will become stronger. They will apply it across more of their classes. They will become more confident with it. Generally, when schools go to IB, by the time they're certified, they're only such a 50%, 40% of their way to being a true full IB school. So it's something that we're going to see blossom in our school district over some period of time.
Thank you.
I think it's important to recognize that teaching isn't something that changes overnight. It's a systemic process to improving teaching and learning. And the Common Core does a number of things, which is to clarify the standards, raise the standards, make the standards more deep, focus more on nonfiction, focus more on making connections between different subjects. It focuses the curriculum in certain ways, but it's not like that is completely foreign to anything we've been doing. We've had the Danielson framework, which helps the staff, administrators, and teachers focused on teaching, and many of the things that they focused on are not inconsistent with the Common Core. We've had a big push on ensuring that we are bringing in and supporting our administrators to be instructional leaders. Again, to enforce and emphasize good teaching practices which are supported by the Common Core. We've been doing professional development for a long time. So a lot of the things that the Common Core is talking about, I already saw changing from when my son went from kindergarten all the way to 5th grade. So I think changes have been happening all throughout the system. and will continue to happen, and will continue to happen at a more accelerated rate. But it isn't simply, certainly IB is helping, certainly in the middle school, but it's not the only thing we're doing, and it's not the only way we're going to get there.
Thank you. Is there another question? Yes.
Okay. Mine.
Yes.
So my question is, I think primarily for Ms. Wright, which is that if I understood what you said right, I'm curious to know how you feel like the board can lower taxes and increase programming.
How can the board lower taxes and increase programs?
By responsible spending.
Well, but specific examples.
Specifically, if we look at our capital funds and what we've been doing in the district in terms of new bleachers, new windows, when we've had to do them 2 or 3 times, having 2 or 3 contracts out on them because the first contractor didn't complete the job correctly. So now we have to pay all over again to have this done. Then we have an outsourced privatization custodial situation who are not trained to come in to pull the bleachers out. For instance, when we had our new bleachers, it wasn't a month before they were broken. The custodian came in and sort of snapped the cable because he hadn't been trained on how to operate it. So we need training. When we talk about training and setting things up and making people responsible and accountable, we need to do that with the board and our spending too. And when I think about the $8 million that we lost, I don't know if you guys were aware, but Governor Christie came in and took $8 million back from us as taxpayers that the board was holding on to and didn't spend it over the 2% cap. And anytime they have come to us for money, we give it, but we don't give it to hold on to it. We give it to use it correctly. And for Governor Christie to come in and take $8 million from us was unspeakable. I could have used some of that money back in my check, especially being retired. And I know you could have too.
Thank you.
I just want to clarify a couple of things. The $8 million, it was $5.5 million. It was back in 2010. When the state overall had a budget crisis, we did have that money had been accrued and was to offset taxes the following year. It's through conservative budgeting. Budgeting happens a year and a half before you actually spend the money. And there had been, like a very warm winter, so we hadn't had to spend money on the energy. It was things like that. There were efficiencies that we had achieved, so we had managed to save some money that then was going to be used the following year to offset taxes. So then what Governor Christie did is he said all districts that had any kind of surplus at that point in time above 2%, this was long before the 2% cap went into place, that had excess surplus over 2%, he said we're going to reduce those districts' state aid the following year, so that's what he did. As far as the custodians, we do outsource the custodians. We've done that as a way to effectively manage the budget. It's saved over $1 million every year, over year. It's a way to really try to keep resources in the classroom because every year we're faced with multi-million-dollar shortfalls as costs escalate faster than we can raise taxes. Plus, we want to try to raise taxes as minimally as possible. So that's one reason the custodial staff is outsourced, and it's actually money saving.
The other thing is we have to look at our lawsuits. We have to look at the IB program and what it's going to cost us, health benefits, all of these things that people are saying are cost drivers. Are they really? But we have to be more fiscally responsible when you look at our demographics compared with other districts that have the same sort of demographics that we do and what we're spending and what they're spending. And we're getting less for our dollar, and we're giving up big bucks we're giving up, and we don't need to.
Thank you. Is there another question? Anybody? I'm surprised. Oops, okay, thank you.
The physical plant at Columbia High School has been the butt of many jokes, especially at the last few graduations, and I know many of you have been there and you have heard them. Okay? It's in a deteriorating state. I'd like to know from any of the candidates who basically want to take this up, what your long-term goals are to restore that to a gem in the community, something that we can look forward to that's going to last us the next 30 or 50 years, as to when Columbia High School was built back in 1920. 90 years old already, it's kind of outlived its useful life, without placing an undue burden on the taxpayers that are already struggling.
Sure, I'll take a shot at it. So district-wide, I mean, Columbia High School in 1928, we have other schools that are equally as old. So district-wide, maintaining our facilities is really something that we do in a very planned way. We have, a long-range capital plan. Every 3 years, we go out for bonding to try to keep the debt service fairly even. On those, every third year when we do issue bonds, it's usually in the $10 to $12 million range. There will be a slight spike of maybe 0.3% or something like that, and then it levels back off. For Columbia High School, there's actually a plan right now. We hired an architect to come in and do a district-wide analysis. Right now, we're focusing on the renewal of Columbia High School because it is our flagship school. The auditorium right now is being renovated in partnership with the chief. They've raised $350,000 to take that from a renovation to a restoration, and when we have the grand opening, I think it's going to blow everybody's socks off. It's just going to be gorgeous, but we have people privately donate their own money to help with that. So part of the restoration plan is looking to repurpose space within the building to accommodate the growing enrollment. Our enrollment at Columbia is supposed to grow from 300 to 400 students in the next 3 to 4 years. So we need some additional classrooms. So it's looking at every bit of space. How can space be reclaimed? How can we move space around to more effectively organize it so that different departments are located more together so that they can collaborate and share resources and things like that. So it's a very thorough plan that's involved the staff at Columbia, the department heads are part of the conversation to figure out, how do we want to restructure things, what areas need to be fixed. There's the question of the pool. That's a central space that has very limited life yet. So it's repurposing that pool space to other educational space. And then there's the question of, does the public want to then build a small pool on the outside of the building that could be a community asset, potentially a revenue generator? That's a big question that's on the works this fall, because it's a phys ed space for the students, but it also is potentially a community asset. But if the community has no tolerance for it because of the additional tax impact, then maybe the pool will be gone.
I'd like to add, I'm going to try and answer your question. You asked about the facilities, the athletic facilities at Columbia High School, which is an embarrassment.
No, the whole.
The whole
facility.
shebang.
The
We're
whole
going to talk
shebang.
about it, and it's something
I
that's.
think the comment that at this past graduation was, no more will I have to get leaked on or the ceiling falling
Yes.
on me while I'm sitting in the classroom.
Oh, I understand that well. As a matter of fact, when we look at Underhill Field, I remember going to the trustees in South Orange to tell them about the dire straits that our field was in because the board would not listen when we came before them. After going to the trustees in South Orange, and they got with the township in Maplewood, we were able to get that field, Underhill Field, taken care of. As a coach in this district, and with many coaches in this district, it's an embarrassment to us when teams have to come here to play us, when we go into such beautiful facilities, and when I think about the kinds of monies that we're wasting, that we could spend to support our students, and when we think about the number of scholarships that kids get in athletics and things like that, we should give them the very best, especially when you're talking about college is going to cost you $100,000, $200,000 in the next few years. But we could have such a palatial place in the gymnasium and pulling it out to Ritzer Field and have a state-of-the-art weight room and the things that can make our kids successful. When you look at the old field house, I mean, when it was going on up there, we took trophies upon trophies that were just sitting there in mold and mildew because no one really cared. But we should spend our money, get a state-of-the-art facility similar to what West Orange has and Livingston and everybody else around us.
Thank you.
Okay, one more question, and then
I need to clarify something.
Just very quickly, when the board is planning around the capital, or facilities, we do have the long-range capital plans that discussed. We are very careful in planning how we do that. It all does cost money, so we plan it and we extend it over time. We set priorities on what are the things we come to first. We make sure that we're not imposing too high a tax burden on the community when we do that. So we make sure we do what we have to do, but we do it in a very planned and prioritized way. And the other thing I just wanted to mention about the high school, when making that plan, we did incorporate input from the staff, and we are thinking about, well, what is the high school going to be in the future? How does learning happen? We used to have teachers sit in front of the room and be the center of the classroom. Now we're moving towards a model where kids are more the center of the classroom. So we'll be making changes with that. We'll be looking at how technology is used, what we need to do in the classrooms to be able to incorporate technology. We'll be thinking about how can the community use it. Are there things that we could do to make building also a better resource for the community? So we're thinking about all these things and thinking about how much we're spending and how best to use the facilities.
Thank you. Okay.
But this issue of crumbling schools is not a South Orange issue. This is a national issue. This is an issue for first suburbs across the country, across our county. And so when we look at the dollars that are put in our community, outside of our community, and how those dollars from federal and state continue to shrink, we are limited to what we can do. The capital plan that the board put together is vast. It's not just Columbia High School, it's every school that we need to do so much in those schools. And we have these limited dollars, and we're not going to put that on the taxpayers. So we've got to, as a country, come up with some creative ideas about how we're going to repair our schools and what's important and what kind of buildings we want our students in. And this is not an issue here alone. This is national.
So, just real quick, I'm very glad you mentioned Dr. Hillfield. As a parent of kids who play sports up there all the time, I also was very disgusted at the condition of that field. And that's why, as a new board member, I partnered with the Alumni Association, the Columbia Alumni Association, and I spearheaded the fundraising effort that raised $1.5 million to put in that new turf field and that new track and the night lighting. So I'm glad you mentioned that. It was a facility that was in complete disrepair. The athletes felt no respect whatsoever, and now it's something that they're very, very proud of. So I think it is very important to keep our facilities up to snuff because it really makes our kids proud.
Okay. I'd like to, there was one more gentleman who had a question. That'll be the last question, and hopefully you can speak to some of the candidates individually.
Okay. Thanks for this opportunity. I've been around board members for a while, so I'm very impressed with the complexity of issues you have to deal with. So I'd love to hear from you. What are the 2 or 3 attributes or skill sets you believe you have to possess to be a very effective board member, given the challenges that we face?
Important skill sets that a board member needs to have.
You need to be a leader. You need to understand what's going on, the underpinnings of what happens on the inside and what happens on the outside. You can't be a board member making policy on schools, but yet you never go inside of those schools. There's a lot of reading that has to go on. With me, I would be a full-time board member. You know, I'm going to read, I'm going to find out what's going on. So I think it's your passion, it's what you want. You want the best for your community. And the other thing is, I'm not getting any younger, so when I sell my property, I want to get, a good dollar for it. And I know that as our school system goes, so goes our property values and our property taxes. And so we need leadership and people who aren't afraid to speak out and tell the truth.
Did anyone want to add anything?
So for me in particular, being that I have 18 years of experience in the wireless industry and half of that as a leader in that industry, understanding how big items, big projects, big things have to happen. I've been in the wireless industry for all this time and it has changed immensely. And that change was painful. And that change took leaders that had a vision, that had a plan, and and that they clearly articulated that and ensured that the resources were there to make it happen. So that's been my career. That's what I've devoted my time to. As far as passion and concern, that is critical. Having that passion and concern for your community, for education, and for me to be able to bring that skill set that I've had in my professional life here in my community.
Thank you. We'll start with our closing statement. So we'll start with our 2-minute closing statements from each candidate, and Stephanie will go first.
I'd like to express my appreciation to each of you for coming out to engage with us this evening. Let's be honest, it's hard to find time to commit to addressing the real issues facing our community. The more I learn about our district, the more I'm committed to being part of shaping its future. I'm the kind of person who operates with a very basic standard. If something's fundamentally the right thing to do, then I'm going to work hard and figure out the right way to get it done. The best motivation for me is when someone tells me it can't be done. I've struck that statement down through my life, both personally and professionally. With thoughtful analysis, careful collaboration, I have driven organizational change, improved operational efficiencies, and led teams to deliver on business results. And I've done this while balancing the needs of 3 amazing children and my husband with his own demanding career. Educating our youth has been my personal commitment since it was rooted in college and rooted in my family's history as educators. Ensuring that all children are educated at the highest levels with high expectation is just the right thing to do. And if there was ever a time for me to commit my time and energy in my community, it's now. With a 2nd grader, 6th grader, and 8th grader, I have first-hand view into the strengths and weaknesses of our district. But beyond that, I have a commitment to understanding this system beyond my own children. Because as I said at the top of the forum, to better ensure that the district continues to serve my own children well, I need to make sure that it serves all children well. That's the community I want to live in. With 18 years of experience in the wireless industry, half of those in leadership, I will bring a thoughtful, unique perspective to the board. I have the experience that complements my 2 running mates, so on November 5th, I ask that you vote for Lawson Muhammad, Daughtry, Giles for school board. Thank you.
Thank you. And next, Joe.
I felt so left out on that one. Ain't nobody got time for that. I just want to say to you that as I began, I too shall end. I am very grateful to the involved community members of the Hilton Neighborhood Association. I hope that this debate has afforded you a sharper picture of the candidates. If you really want to know who I am, ask your children. Ask the parents of the children that I have taught. Ask the parents that I have taught. They would tell you that I won't let them be abused, and I'm proud of it. Ask people that I have taught and that I have worked with. People come to me when they want the right answers. Many of you know me for speaking out and fighting. Fighting for the things that are right. Whether it is for students, whether I'm fighting for parents, whether I'm fighting for teachers, whether I'm fighting for community. I am not going to stand still and let you be abused. I'm just not going to do it. My history speaks volumes for fighting for our kids. We need people involved on our board who actually know what's needed, that have that experience as much as the passion. I am the right who never left. I haven't left my commitment to our children or to our district. So on November 5th, vote right. Thank you. Don't clap,
Thank you. Beth?
Hopefully from everything that you have heard David and I say tonight, you can tell that as incumbents, we have taken a very measured and systemic approach to continuous improvement throughout the district. Implementing changes that will improve the teaching and learning in every classroom, changes that will benefit every student. And all of the changes are aimed at making our students engaged, challenged, and inspired to do their very best. Many of the changes we've done ourselves, others have been imposed by the state, but we support their intent. As board president, I have worked very hard to make sure that our board, with 9 members and 9 different viewpoints, work together as an effective governing body to make sure we provide the right guidance and oversight to the administration. We prioritize the work to be done by the superintendent and district staff, and we hold the superintendent accountable for progress towards these goals. I would like to serve another 3 years to continue to lead the board in its efforts to make sure that our district is meeting the needs of every student. Systemic change takes time. It requires hard work and stable leadership. I strongly believe that David, Stephanie, and I share a commitment to stay focused on continuous improvement for all students. We will make sure that the Board of Education strikes the right balance between partnership and accountability so we can accelerate toward our vision of excellence and equity in public education without excuse. I urge you to vote for the 3 of us on November 5th. Thank you for coming out tonight.
David?
One cannot overstate the importance of education to each and every child. I've dedicated my career to trying to ensure that the educational experience of all children is positive, regardless of who they are. As a board member, I've tried to do the same to ensure that all children, whether they be students with disabilities, gifted students, or students who just fall through the cracks, are engaged and supported in achieving at the highest levels. While Beth and I have served on the board, the district has made many changes to improve our curriculum, improve teaching, and expand opportunities for students. We've achieved positive results evidenced by objective data, what we see with our own eyes, and what we hear from parents. But we know we still have a long way to go and can always improve. It is important that we ensure that change already begun is fully and effectively implemented, and that we pursue additional improvements such as improved programs for children with disabilities and gifted students. I believe the progress we have made shows that Beth and I have effectively led the board over the last 3 years, and that we can continue to offer such leadership in the future. I also know that the qualities that Stephanie offers as a successful manager and a parent of 3 kids, as well as her values and priorities, will make her a tremendous asset to the board. For all these reasons, I hope you will vote for Beth, Stephanie, and myself for the Board of Education.
Well, I think we can be assured that we have very high-quality candidates. And it's such a time-consuming and just challenging job that I really appreciate everyone who agrees to run as a candidate. I hope everyone will take a minute to say hello and give your opinions and just thank our candidates and help yourself to some refreshments. Thank you so much for coming.